Clark came out once again with her hair on fire. Stephanie White benched her.
That exact sequence of events, which we all just witnessed, is a masterclass in how to completely lose the trust of your locker room and totally push away a fiercely loyal fan base in record time. What we are looking at right now is a coaching staff actively and inexplicably sabotaging their own team's offensive engine. In regards to this game,
look at this, folks. Fever in the first half versus the Fire. 9 of 29, 31%, 1 of 10 from three-point range.
benchmarking your star playmaker, the undeniable face of the franchise, the very moment she plays aggressively to establish early momentum, isn't just a questionable substitution pattern that can be explained away in a post-game press conference.
Caitlin Clark came out like her hair was on fire. Stephanie White pulled her, I believe, 3 minutes, 3 mother effing minutes into the game, and it was a wrap.
Let's call it exactly what it is. This is a blatant, massive struggle for power, unfolding live on national television before millions of viewers, and it is systematically destroying the entire organization from the inside out.
This was halftime. I want you to look at the ratio of likes to comments on the Indiana Fever page. They are getting ratioed to hell. I can only imagine. Oh, wow. It's already started. We'll look at that in the morning. 85 likes to 159 comments.
Now, take a moment to look at the immediate statistical damage caused by that baffling decision. The team shot a dismal 9 for 29 from the field, barely scraping past the 30% mark in a professional basketball game, which is completely unacceptable at this level of competition. The offensive floor spacing wasn't just poor, it was entirely non-existent, leaving players crowded together with no room to move or create opportunities. By the way,
Monnique Billings didn't even play 8 minutes. Why was she signed exactly?
think about it from a purely tactical perspective. When you pull the one player whose presence on the floor forces the opposing defense to stretch out past the three-point line, you are essentially inviting this kind of total offensive collapse.
There's a video that has come out of Caitlin Clark talking about, yeah, we need to get the ball into the post and yada, yada, yada. What bothers me the most is it's starting to sound like Stephanie White has finally beat down Caitlin Clark. And it's really concerning.
The opposing defense didn't even have to work hard or break a sweat to stop them. They simply clogged the paint, stood their ground, and watched the Indiana offense suffocate itself in a crowded, disorganized mess. But the timing of how this unfolded is what makes the situation truly terrible and impossible to defend. 3 minutes. Are you kidding? You do not pull a starting franchise cornerstone just 3 minutes into the opening quarter under the excuse of needing rest. And you certainly do not bench them that early for a minor defensive mistake that happens a dozen times every game. Let's be completely honest, that incredibly quick hook is nothing more than a petty, disciplinary move meant to send a power trip message. However, the only message it actually sent went straight to the expansion team across the court. It was a glaring sign letting them know that the Indiana Fever were completely fractured internally and ready to be beaten without a fight. And as you would expect in today's era, the digital backlash across social media was instant and absolutely relentless. It is rare to see a WNBA team's official accounts get criticized this heavily and consistently, especially before the halftime buzzer has even sounded. That lopsided 85 to 159 disparity in user engagement isn't just a collection of random internet trolls trying to stir up drama. That massive wave of criticism represents the core demographic of the league's dedicated fanbase, vocally rejecting the unwatchable performance being put on the court. If nothing else, it proves that the fans watching at home understand the tactical disaster unfolding before them far better than the highly paid coaching staff who are supposed to be executing a winning game plan. This naturally brings us to the front office's glaring failure to build anything resembling a functional, cohesive roster. For instance, bringing in a highly respected veteran presence like Monnique Billings only to keep her glued to the bench for 32 painful minutes of a blowout game makes absolutely zero sense. If your frontcourt is getting bullied and out-rebounded by an expansion franchise, and you refuse to use the exact depth and rebounding talent you just went out of your way to acquire, you are guilty of front office roster mismanagement on top of your on-court coaching failures. Honestly, looking at the bigger picture, it raises deep concerns for the long-term health of this organization. That specific post-game audio clip we heard is, without a doubt, the most alarming piece of evidence we've seen all season regarding the team culture. Hearing a dynamic, incredibly fast, perimeter-oriented superstar mechanically repeat old, outdated talking points about throwing the ball into the post shows a complete psychological surrender from a player who should be running the show. Let me be clear. This isn't a mature player sacrificing for the good of the team. No, this is a brilliant young talent who has been systematically broken down and stripped of her creative freedom by a stubborn coaching philosophy that fundamentally misunderstands how modern, fast-paced basketball must be played to win. To fully grasp the size of this organizational disaster, step back and look at the broader context of what happened on that floor tonight. You have to remember who they were playing against. The opposition was literally a brand new expansion team. If you know anything about the history of this league, expansion rosters are quickly thrown together from the unprotected players and cast-offs of other established teams. They are, by definition, a random collection of role players who lack any long-term chemistry with one another. Yet somehow, despite those disadvantages, they confidently took the court and put on a defensive clinic, showing sharp rotations, seamless switching, and a relentless hustle that made the star-studded Indiana Fever look like a disorganized recreational league squad. And you cannot ignore the television broadcast here because it elevates this from a standard regular season loss into a massive, multi-million-dollar failure for the brand. The WNBA as a whole has spent years fighting hard for these premium, free-to-air network television time slots. They finally secured this valuable prime real estate specifically to showcase their biggest box office draw, and the entire country tuned in, only to watch a supposedly defensive-minded head coach stand by helplessly as her disconnected team got humiliated on national TV. You never get a second chance to make a first impression on a massive, casual audience, and this embarrassing performance likely sent millions of curious first-time viewers reaching for their remotes to find something else to watch. While we examine the wreckage, we also have to look critically at the box score because it tells a deceptive story. Seeing 18 points and 17 points next to your starting frontcourt's names might look respectable if you didn't watch the actual game, but context is everything in professional sports. Leaving your primary starters out on the floor to grind away late into the third and fourth quarters of a blowout that was decided an hour ago is the textbook definition of garbage time stat padding. It is a transparent attempt by the coaches to manufacture a respectable box score to hide the ugly reality of a 30-point beating. Furthermore, we need to address how the local media's cautious handling of this situation borders on a total failure of journalism at this point. When a professional team suffers a historic, embarrassing defeat marked by bizarre coaching decisions and visibly frustrated players, the post-game press conference should be a gauntlet of accountability. Instead, we consistently see an unacceptable lack of direct, tough questions regarding the coaching staff's job security and the tactical failures that caused the blowout. Let's be real. If the reporters in that room refuse to do their jobs and hold the staff accountable, they become complicit in making this level of mediocrity acceptable. Make no mistake, this directly harms the entire league's economic future. Both the current collective bargaining agreement and the massive, upcoming multi-billion-dollar media rights negotiations rely heavily on the passion of this specific fanbase that is currently being pushed away. When you alienate those dedicated supporters by benching the primary star they paid to see, and choose to play an outdated style of 1990s basketball, you threaten the league-wide revenue model that financially benefits every player in the association. The financial impact of destroying this team's unprecedented marketability extends far beyond the city of Indianapolis. Honestly, the ghost of Jim Mora's famous playoffs rant has never felt more relevant than it does looking at this current squad. The sheer delusion required for anyone in that building to even whisper the word playoffs in the same sentence as this dysfunctional roster is staggering to witness. You cannot build a legitimate championship contender when your organizational culture is defined by internal power struggles, baffling player utilization, and a stubborn refusal by the staff to adapt their outdated offensive system to fit the generational talent they were lucky enough to draft. The franchise has officially backed itself into a very dark corner, where making minor adjustments to the rotation will no longer fix the problem. You cannot patch a sinking ship with a cheap bandage and hope for the best. The front office is now facing a definitive, franchise-altering choice that will define the next decade of their existence. They must completely overhaul this coaching staff and bring in a modern visionary who knows how to maximize a generational guard, or they risk pushing their most valuable asset to the point of demanding a trade out of town. So when you look at all of this dysfunction, who is truly to blame for this embarrassing collapse? Is it completely on the front office for assembling a clunky, mismatched puzzle of a roster that doesn't fit? Or does the blame lie squarely on the coaching staff for stubbornly trying to force a square peg into a round hole while the country watches in disbelief? I'll tell you one thing for sure. You cannot rationally defend both of them at this stage. Share your honest thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more daily content, and let me know exactly who you think needs to pack their bags first.